USA Radio News, I'm Ron Warner. Maritime tracking firm Capler says more than 170 ships have passed through the Strait of Hormuz since a U.S.-Iran memorandum was signed last week, with additional tankers waiting to transit. Iranian military officials, however, say only a limited number of vessels will be allowed through daily, raising confusion among shipping operators. Oil prices have eased in recent days, with U.S. crude falling below $75 a barrel. President Trump is set to host the Great American State Fair kickoff celebration on the National Mall tonight.
It's being billed as a patriotic opening ceremony to launch Freedom 250's Great American State Fair, a first-of-its-kind World's Fair on the National Mall. The fair's organizer, Freedom 250, said all 50 states and U.S. territories will be represented, even with several states led by Democratic governors saying they will not take part. They include Massachusetts, North Carolina, Washington, Illinois, Oregon, and Connecticut. The event runs June 25th through July 10th. I'm Mark Mayfield.
The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled 9-0 in favor of Isabella County, Michigan, rejecting a family's claim that the government must compensate homeowners based on full market value after tax foreclosure sales. The case involved a home sold for significantly more than the outstanding tax debt. The court said the Constitution does not require compensation based on hypothetical market value, though it left some procedural questions for lower courts to review. Archaeologists in Egypt have uncovered a cache of ancient artifacts at Heliopolis, a city connected to the biblical story of Joseph. The discovery includes earrings believed to be gold, carved scarabs, cosmetic containers, and a copper mirror found beneath the burial structure. Officials say it's the first nearly complete funerary collection discovered in that area. From America's News Network, USA Radio News.
Maybe this is you too. There's enormous frustration right now with healthcare costs. It is amazing. Healthcare costs for families in the last 20 years have almost tripled, and it just keeps getting worse. All this to say, this is why MediShare is so in demand right now. People are looking for alternatives, and MediShare is proven. You can save thousands of dollars a year and actually like it more. Over 1 million Americans are now part of healthcare sharing, and MediShare is the gold standard. It's trusted, it works, it's been helping people save money and have peace of mind now for 30 plus years. It's not some big impersonal thing either. It's a community of people like you helping each other. So yeah, if you're frustrated too, here's your chance to make a refreshing change. You'll notice the difference as soon as you call. They're easy to talk to. You can get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number. Call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
FIFA has confirmed that President Trump will attend the World Cup final in New Jersey.
President Trump will present the World Cup trophy to the winning team following the game at MetLife Stadium on July 19th. The FIFA president usually presents the trophy. This will mark the first time since 1982 that a head of state presented it to the winners. The president's attendance is sure to lead to even higher security measures for fans attending the game who were already going through extensive security screenings. In New York, I'm Jonathan O'Halloran.
A federal judge appointed by President Biden has blocked the Trump administration from using an updated version of the federal SAVE program to verify voter eligibility. The court said the case involves competing concerns over election integrity and voter privacy, including how federal databases are used to check citizenship status. Ruling temporarily halts the program while the legal challenge proceeds. A North Carolina state auditor report found that tens of millions of dollars in allegedly fraudulent unemployment payments were made through the state system between 2021 and 2025, with about $47.2 million identified and roughly $12.1 million recovered so far. The report also cited an improper payment rate above federal benchmarks. State officials say efforts to improve oversight were delayed, while the findings come as former Democratic Governor Roy Cooper campaigns for U.S. Senate. I'm Ron Warner, USA Radio News.
You can help put vets to work by donating your car, truck, or van. Your donation will directly support programs to help vets find jobs or even start their own business. Donate today for fast, free pickup of your vehicle. Call 800-209-4580 for 24-hour response. Call 800-209-4580. That's 800-209-4580.
Dependable Lock Service is your source for replacement car keys, custom safes from Liberty Safe, and so many more lock and key services. With over 30 years of experience in lock and key industry, there's nothing Dependable Lock Service can't do for you. Whether you're looking for duplicate automotive chip keys, rekeying commercial and residential locks, or custom safe building, we've got you covered. Call 603-886-0559. Nashua's Dependable Lock Services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The sky's not the limit, it's just the beginning. I'm Ed Mullen from Nashua Aerial Advertising. There's no better way to advertise your business and or message than high in the sky. How can you make your advertising budget work for you? By putting your ads up where they'll stand out. The sky is an uncluttered, impressive venue. You can put your message over a region or location to target your desired demographic. Put your ads where they're needed. We provide coverage over communities through Merrimack Valley, Greater Nashua, Manchester, Lowell, and points throughout South Central New Hampshire and North Central Mass. Summertime beaches, sporting events, races, fairs, and festivals are all ready-made for banner towing. For more information, please visit us online at NashuaAerialAdvertising.com. And remember, the sky's not the limit, it's just the beginning.
Tired of wondering where your money really goes? At Mammoth Nation, we built what was missing. The America First Marketplace. Every brand we feature is 100% American owned and operated, rigorously vetted for their values and committed to supporting our Constitution, law enforcement, and the American dream. When you shop with us, your dollar stays in the neighborhood, supporting families, veterans, and charities like Folds of Honor. No more sending your hard-earned money overseas to the companies that don't respect you here. Your dollar reflects your values. Your dollar, your values. Your America. Join Mammoth Nation today and be part of building a patriot economy by going to TruckersUnitedForFreedom.com affiliate page and hit that link. American built, America strong, Mammoth Nation.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Gorvin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives. It's another Wednesday night. Checking my mic. Okay, yeah, I'm working. I have my volume down, so I didn't even realize my mic was working or not. So, yeah, it's another Wednesday night, and we are all present, accounted for. Chris Wyatt did not make it up here in New Hampshire yet this week, but we will be looking forward for that day. How you guys doing there, Todd?
Oh, good, John. I appreciate it. I appreciate you got the lead tonight. I completely forgot. I was like, is it my time or is it next week? So appreciate it. Sorry about the hot mic there. I'm glad it wasn't going out on the air. I don't know what I was doing or what the heck. I'm cat sitting. I got a cat, so I got to make sure he's fed, and I had to put him out. So I didn't want him interfering with the show.
See, I could hear it on my end of it. So you were petting the cat, making all sorts of like baby noises with the cat.
I was feeding the cat and just talking to it. So I was like, oh my goodness, hot mic. Was I talking to the cat on the air?
It's a shame you had to put the cat down. I mean, I didn't know we were going to go that far. It's a pretty serious program tonight.
He's outside.
Chris, how you doing, man? You feeling okay?
Still under the weather. I didn't want to spread the pestilence from Georgia back to Pennsylvania, not up to the New England area. So I passed. It's a good thing, too, because I think I haven't gotten as much sleep in probably a few years. I'm still working, countless hours, but I've taken a nap here and there, which has been refreshing. But no, I'm still got some kind of respiratory thing. It's not COVID. It's not a tumor. But it's definitely on the mend, but still lingering. So it's just as well, because my original plan had been to leave Sunday, drive up the upstate New York, and then head over to Connecticut, and then make my way over to New Hampshire. But that hasn't quite panned out. So we'll have to wait and see when that is. But that trip is not this week because I'm still hacking away a little bit with the chest infection.
Well, if you had the 77th booster, you wouldn't be sick right now. It would be less severe, I think, right?
I had 76, so apparently I missed out on that last one.
Oh, yes. Man. One more, you'd have been set.
Yep.
Well, it's trust the science, right?
Oh, it's settled, right? We've been told it's settled.
That's right. The science is settled. That's what the left tells us. These freaking alchemists who think that they. I love how they attack conservatives who actually believe in genuine science and tell us that we have to trust the science. Of course, I was reading about that today, more about the global warming and how the world is changing. And I did watch a repeat of the video of Greta Thunberg a few years ago and said, "How dare you? You ruined my childhood." She ruined my adulthood having listening to her whining. Good Lord.
Yep.
Yeah.
They listened to her whine, and the adults who used her, man. I mean, for crying out loud, they're the ones who ruined your childhood. Let you be a kid and go enjoy yourself. Don't sit there and take advantage of you and have you going into the UN or these flotillas, for crying out loud. That's what ruined your childhood. Adults not being responsible around you, for crying out loud.
Well, technically, she's an adult now, right?
Well, now I'm saying
she's not acting like it. But yeah, they did. She was what, 16 or something? They put her on her national stage.
A teenager at the time. What we would call a high school kid, right? They took advantage of her.
I think what ruined her childhood is the fact she's a moron.
Additionally, yeah.
I think that played a large role in her ruined childhood. Yeah. Anyway, it's So I'm still here. I'll try to make it up there first chance I get.
Awesome. Yeah. No. Whenever it's like don't want you to have to go running around when you're sick and stuff. And we know you'll make it eventually one day. I'm sure there's a few people up here looking forward to that moment when it comes. Besides us,
right? Absolutely. I look forward to making my way up there at some point. I got to figure that out. I may make it a point to be in there on a Wednesday as I'm doing some sort of sightseeing tour. I don't know. I've always wanted to really just tour New England and just go to battlefields, things of that nature.
Is late September, mid-October would be the best time to try that.
The leaves and all that, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been up through there many times, but it's always in conjunction with something else, working, especially, when advancing a vice president. I went up there many times with Vice President Pence or Cheney, and it was always, you're there for a couple of days or in and out on one day, and it's not enough to see anything, that's for sure.
It's hard to do. It's hard to tour when you're working. It's hard to take that time or fit it in. Or you might get a thing in here or there, but it's not like you really get a chance to relax and enjoy it. Hello, TJ, Renee, and Mike. Thank you for joining us on our social media.
Yep, absolutely.
So yeah, no, there's a lot to see up here, man. I mean, this was where it all began, I guess you could say. Boston likes to take a lot of claim for it, but I still think it's Ware, New Hampshire, where the Pine Tree riots happened several years before. They kind of kicked it off when they had enough.
Pine trees were fighting? What was going on?
Yeah, the Pine Tree riots, man. It's like
they were fighting maple trees from Canada. They were fighting maple trees from Canada.
Yeah, no, the king was marking all of it, or having, he had a
I get it for ships and things like that. Yeah, the timber.
Yeah, for the mast, the best pines for the mast and stuff.
Right.
Well, they were marking a lot of trees, and for the lumber yards and stuff. They're like, well, what are we supposed to do?
Right, and they were left with scraps, basically. Yeah,
they were getting away with it for a lot of years, going, we'll just cut down the trees and using them. I don't know what the king's going to do when he needs a mast, but. Then they started enforcing for that, and well, that's when things started breaking loose, and they said, no. I don't know what you guys do on the other side of the ocean, but over here in the colonies, we do it differently. So they let them know. I mean, they weren't nice about it. So, anyway, so much USS Constitution down there in Boston. You got Concord, Lexington, not far away from here. Places in upstate New Hampshire, awesome places in Maine. If you can stomach the Bernie Sanders land, Vermont's actually a nice place. Otherwise, I mean,
what's funny about Boston claiming to be kind of the birthplace of all this is like only a part of that city can claim that because they built so much of it out. Land reclamation. I mean, for crying out loud, I think only a fraction of the city actually existed during the colonial time. Am I right?
I think Boston was Boston from that time. It might have expanded some, but you got cities like Roxbury and Jamaica Plains.
A lot of it's land reclamation. A lot of it was swampy land around where Boston was founded, the original part of the city, right? I think
I'm not sure on that.
Yeah, so most of the city that's there now, didn't really exist. It was mostly marshland at the time of the colonial period, I believe. So whenever Boston claims to be the first, it's like only a part of that city can be claimed to be the first, right?
I don't know. It's still Boston. I
don't
know,
no.
Todd. I don't want to contradict you, but it's still Boston. It's still the city.
Oh no,
of Boston,
for sure. I get you.
I get what you're saying. I mean,
still
Beacon Hill
Beantown.
and stuff.
I get it.
And So yeah, but you're right. It gets pretty close to sea level in certain parts and stuff like that.
Oh
But
yeah,
as
yeah.
far as
No,
I know, I
I'm,
mean,
I'm,
you
I'm
know,
just making it. I'm just joking. I mean, kidding. That's
yeah,
how you
yeah.
get back at somebody from Boston who's like, "Oh, I was first, this and that." He's like, "What part of the city were you from?" Well, that was not even a part of the city at the. It was underwater.
As long
But
as
anyway,
Southeast count, man, that's what matters. The Southeast got to count.
yeah.
So
Colonel's
let's see where
coughing
we
over
at.
there.
I guess we've had a few things happen since we last spoke. The reflecting pond's been a hot topic for the
Saw
last
that
week
coming.
or so, and
Saw that coming.
I did a comparison because Obama back in 2010 to 2012 had renovations done to the reflecting pond. And a lot of people are pointing fingers at Trump and say, well, you can't put dark paint in the reflecting pond and expect this not to happen. It's like, what? Like Obama didn't? So there's a lot of close similarities and differences between the two of them. So Obama did it in 2012. Trump recently did it. Obama spent $36 million to refurbish the reflecting pond. $36 million today would be equivalent, accounting for inflation, $53.28 million if you were spending that today. While today, Trump only spent what, 17 tops?
14.8.
14.8. I thought went up to 60. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I thought it was about a
But
depends on who you ask.
that's not the issue. The issue is the sabotage that's occurring.
Well, that's the problem. I'm not seeing any evidence of the sabotage. I mean,
I don't need to see evidence. The law enforcement arrested people. So are people claiming the law enforcement agency is rogue and running around arresting people that haven't done anything? Then that's an allegation needed to level. Until that's the case, I'll wait to hear what happens to these cases.
So it's interesting enough. 7 people got arrested and charged, and I think there was accusations they were cutting because apparently this polyurea paint that they used rubberizes, and it acts like a liner inside the reflecting pond to seal it. So what are they doing? Cutting it or something, and ripping it? I know it's not a whole lot of damage for what is damage.
People apparently were caught putting chemicals in the water, which fostered the algae bloom and poisoned the ducks, and also weakened the integrity of that rubber-like material paint that was at the bottom. So let's wait and see if these people are going to claim that the government is just arresting people with bogus allegations. Then that's a whole separate allegation. But in the meantime, I'll trust the authorities have arrested people who are damaging the pond. We've seen them do this crap before. I mean, these are the same people that run around the country and scratch Teslas, cars that have cameras on them that identify their assailants. They're not very bright. So I think that let's just wait and see about what's going on here. I find it hard to believe that that algae. I mean, I've had a pool before, and I've treated it, and I've not had algae grow so fast as what happened there. And that reflecting pool existed for decades. We didn't have algae problems. So it's strange how it just suddenly grows.
They had it when Obama
yes,
did it.
Yes, I know, but it existed for decades before Obama, and it wasn't an algae problem. Something has happened that's fostered this. Anyway, so the point here is that I will wait to see what happens with these cases, also to see what happens with the reflecting pool before I say that it was poorly done. The whole thing seems a little dodgy. How it happens, it's just so quickly. It's just happened.
Well, when people are pulling at the paint, when they're reaching in there and grabbing at it, and one guy got canoeist or something, got arrested for it. That's a long. I think Mike's talking about something else here. Anyway, so yeah, people were pulling at it and stuff like that, and that's why they got arrested because they were accused of damaging it. They weren't exactly just seeing something floating in the water.
They actually caught someone pouring chemicals in. Is one of the reports. So we'll have to wait and see. Chemicals go in.
So anyway, yeah, I thought the reports that we've been hearing have been pretty vague, but it's also Trump calls it fake media, right? For a reason. I keep looking at media and I go, hey, these reports I'm getting are just kind of vague and they're really not giving any details, anything. So you got a point there, Chris. I mean, I guess we're going to have to wait until they come up with something with more detail. Right. DOJ releases something.
Was there any video by chance of anybody doing anything in particular? I'm not sure. I haven't seen anything, right?
Well, what I find strange is why isn't 24-hour surveillance by the Park Service on those monuments? Why don't we have cameras out there? We have cameras everywhere else. We got cameras watching people run the red lights. We could put cameras on a national treasure. Give me a break.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know there's different cameras on the mall at different points. I don't know where and what coverage that they have and what's lacking or whatever. Is there something on top of the monument?
Obviously, there's nothing there because these idiots went out and damaged the mall, writing 8647 on there, burning the
That's true.
grass
Yeah,
off of
which was just on
chemicals.
the other side of that. Yeah.
Yeah, they used the same chemicals, most likely, that they used to destroy the grass out there to destroy the reflecting pool. I mean, this isn't rocket science. Their damage has been seen before. Why is it so implausible for people to believe that they've sabotaged the reflecting pool that Trump just had completed, which
No.
embarrassed their savior God, the great Hussein Obama?
Yeah, and the thing is, you knew that they were going to target, and I knew that they were going to target the reflecting pool because it had been the story for probably a solid month, if you will, along with Iran. It was a counter
Well,
story.
they tried everything. They're like, oh, it was a no bid contract. Well, okay, fine. It was, if you have a compelling need, you don't need a bid. There's a way
That's
this
true.
process works.
No.
So they presented a compelling need. They got it, and that story didn't resonate. They weren't happy. Then when it came in, they produced it at only a quarter in real dollars of what it cost Obama to do, and he screwed it up years ago. I mean, look at all the videos they showed of Black Americans visiting the reflecting pool, weeks after that thing happened. Before the paint was already peeling when they did it for $30-some million. So all the stories the left media tried to generate about how poorly it was going with Trump never worked. So this to me just seems like the latest effort by them to undermine the Trump administration. They'll do anything to destroy America. They hate this country, and shame on them.
Well, the thing about the no bid contract is the reason why it was a no bid contract had nothing to do with the Trump administration at all. They didn't hire the contractor. They bought the chemicals or the paint from a provider, and that person brought in the contractor. They were the contractors to the supplier. So that's why they got the bid or the job.
Whatever the case is, my point is that that's what the media focused on.
Yeah,
That's all they
right.
cared about. They didn't care about the
Right.
quality of the work. So I'm sorry, did it not go to enough left-handed, lesbian, black, gay, transsexuals who got a government contract based on points awarded to them for DEI? So is that the problem? I'm sorry, I missed something.
Yeah, no, exactly, and there was not enough rainbow flags out there on the side celebrating, Pride Month or whatever, which is sad. And I understand that they had the no bid because they needed to get it completed for America's 250th birthday. There's going to be a lot of people going through, our nation's capital. It needed to be done. You couldn't have the algae bloom or some sort of construction project with things draped off, if you will, or roped off.
Well, look, I mean, this nonsense has been going forever. Anything they can do to undermine this presidency. I mean, we watched the Biden administration light up the pillars, the columns of the White House on the South Lawn in rainbow colors, professing their love for gay pride. Yet they weren't offended by that, but they were offended by a UFC fight that took place on the lawn. It's ridiculous. These people. They hate anything that promotes America, anything. Anything to divide the country and divide this into groups and balkanize the country on race and gender and sex and sexual orientation. That's what they're all about. And that's what the Biden regime did. And the media never said a word. But now they have issues with the Trump administration trying to beautify a mess that's been sitting down there in D.C. for years.
Right, absolutely. And there's a lot of other places in the city there in Washington that have been, refurbished, et cetera, and look a heck of a lot better. Some of these off the beaten path monuments and things of that nature that this administration has actually fixed that have been neglected for decades upon decades that are there that are obscure, but now people are actually visiting them because they look good again.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Tourism is blooming in Washington, D.C. It's not because of cherry blossoms. That time is
Right.
come and gone. The spring is over with cherry blossoms. They're coming because they want to see D.C. because it's been cleaned up. It's not the dangerous cesspool that it has
Right.
been for many, many years. Despite the fact that we still had an idiot in charge of the district, at least the federal government's taking responsibility for its portion of it and cleaning it up. And so they just can't help themselves. They just look. I just like this. It's like this nonsense. New York Times ran another story about the South Africa refugee program. They call it how Trump turned it into the refugee program to a white program. First off, what's the problem if white people are coming over as refugees? Are white people not able to be refugees? Can they not be persecuted? I mean, seriously. Have you not watched what's happened in Europe in the past? That's the first problem. Second problem is that so Trump turned the refugee program to a whites-only program, except that's a lie. New York Times doesn't bother to even try to find out the people who are non-white who've come over. I've interviewed Indians and mixed-race coloreds and black South Africans who've come over under the program that's supposedly just for white farmers. And they continue to run this propaganda each and every day on their crappy newspaper. And on top of that, they never even raised the fact that the Biden administration brought over 250,000 white Ukrainians to this country in less than 3 years. going around conveniently providing humanitarian parole and then giving the temporary protected status, which is expired, and they're still here. They're still in our country. And they're white, they're blonde haired, they're blue eyed. They had no problem with 250,000 of them. Upwards of 300,000 have come into this country under that program. And only 6,000 white South Africans come over here and they're losing their minds. They're such hypocrites and such liars.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. But it's funny is you say, hey, let's push back on some Somalis. We have too many Somalis coming here and taking advantage, especially in Minnesota, committing fraud, and to the tune of billions. And you say, hey, maybe we should look at that. But they'll say, oh, you're racist. But then they'll say you have white South Africans coming here, and they'll say, oh, well, you're also racist. I don't understand it. It's weird. It's like you allow so many people in here, 90-some% is probably, a person of color, right? I'm imagining. I don't know the demographics.
Well, before Trump, virtually everybody came to this country refugee was a person of color from the developing world. Very few of them were properly vetted.
Yeah, so 90-some% are people of color to this day. So how are you racist if that's still the demographics that's coming here? I don't quite get that.
Oh, it's no longer the demographics. Now it's mostly white South Africans coming, and that's their problem. They're feeling hurt because
from South Africa, yeah. But I'm saying on the whole.
No, but there's no one else coming in, Todd. The president suspended the program, so okay. that's the issue. So, okay. But the hypocrisy here is that they didn't complain when 300,000 Ukrainians flooded our country without our approval, and now 6,000 South Africans come over and they're losing their mind, who happen to be also white. 300,000 versus 3,000, and come on, they didn't complain once about Ukrainians because Ukraine was the pet project. Oh, let's feel bad for Ukraine. Let's feel bad for this piano playing, grifter in chief who led his country into war and has led it into oblivion and is being funneled money by the hundreds of billions of dollars by corrupt politicians from Joe Biden to Keir Starmer to all these clowns in the German government, the French government, to fuel a war, to murder Ukrainians and murder Russians at the expense of peace. That's fine. That's their little pet project, murdering Russians. But they don't want to talk about the fact that this country is flooded by Ukrainians. But they're fine with that. But they have a problem with 6,000 South Africans coming over. It's just it's ridiculous.
Well, speaking of Starmer, did he not resign the other day? Ousted.
Yeah, indeed, John. There's no more Keir Starmer. He's still a member of Parliament, but he's no longer. Well, he's still the Prime Minister.
No, he'll be there till September, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But he's like Angela Merkel. I'm resigning in 3 years. What the heck is that?
Yeah, right.
Remember that? What a fraud she was. Oh man, can't get rid of those people fast enough.
No, for sure. These people live. I mean, you look at Europe. I mean, look at the United Kingdom. I mean, they've ran these nations into oblivion, and it's decade after decade, for crying out loud. And now people are wising up. And it's like, think about it. In the UK, you post something on social media, they put you in prison. But if you go, have a grooming game and go rape a bunch of young girls, all of a sudden you get protected.
Yeah, because they don't want to be labeled racist. That's right, the story I hear behind it.
That's exactly what happened. I've been talking about this for over 15 years, this story. This is not new. It suddenly got the attention it should have been getting for the past 15 years because a few popular accounts got onto it and a few politicians finally got behind it. No, this has been, these grooming gangs have been going on in the UK for years, and especially in the Midlands. So what they did is they would go after young girls, 11, 12 years old, whose parents were poor parents. What I mean by that is they're pathetic parents in the standpoint they didn't parent very well, not that they wealth. They typically came from lower income families, but that wasn't the reason these girls were groomed. They were groomed because their parenting wasn't taking place, single parent families, or both parents ridiculous not doing their job and watching out for their child. And they would come after these girls and they would recruit them and they'd ply them with alcohol and then drugs and they'd take them as sex slaves. That's what they did. They'd pimp them. They sold them around, stealing their innocence, impregnating them, infecting them. And destroying their lives. And this happened to now supposedly 250,000 girls this happened to. That's a much larger number than I ever knew. And this went on for years. And the police refused to report. When some parents tried to report it, who found out about it, who actually cared about their kids, they were called racist by the police. The police were afraid of being called racist. And instead of doing their job, they allowed this. These people should be in prison for what they allowed to happen to these young women. It's shocking. It's absolutely shocking. It's so pervasive. It happened for so long that they get away with impunity. You mentioned being arrested for social media. Over 12,000 British citizens are currently in prison for social media comments. That's about 11,800 more than there are in Chinese communist prisons for social media.
Yeah, wow. We fear communist China, for crying out loud, Xi Jinping and all this stuff. And all of a sudden you have Keir Starmer over here tossing his people in there left and right laughing at us.
It's to my understanding the dark web has Facebook. You can access Facebook off the dark web, and the reason why it's set up that way because you can do it under the radar. Basically, create a fake account. Nobody knows it's you, and you can say what you want to say on social media.
Well, they'll come after you if they can get access to it. It doesn't matter where it's at. These people are demonic. You can be arrested for giving offense. So they've arrested Christian preachers for spreading the gospel in Hyde Park, yet they allow Muslims to invade the Church of England grounds and pray during the day and block traffic during the day. Is this not insulting to Christianity or to Christians or just regular people? Now, anything that offends anyone who's Muslim or anyone who's brown, you'll get arrested for in the UK. Never mind offending someone who's Christian or white, who's actually an indigenous population of the islands. No, this whole thing is upside down. These people are, I don't understand what their problem is. They're so obsessed by this cult of racism because they're actually racist and they don't see it. That's the problem. They're racist against their own people.
Yeah, fools. I mean, it's evil. It's pure evil. It's evil in the world. It's evil incarnate, I think. I mean, it's in the flesh. Here it is. And people don't see it. I don't quite understand. And people that are afraid to stand up, they're like, I'm afraid to go speak at a school board because I have kids in the school. It's like, that's the time whenever you should be speaking up. If you fear going and speaking up to a legislative body, maybe you shouldn't send your kids to that school district, for crying out loud. You shouldn't have fear of speaking up to an elected official or an elected body, for crying out loud. And of course, you shouldn't have fear to vote, get bad people out, for crying out loud.
One of my viewers asked a question in the chat about, so why are they bankrolling Islamist groups? It's very simple. It's the same approach the Nazis took. The National Socialist Workers' Party of Germany allied itself with Muslims in the Middle East to destroy Jews. So they allied themselves. This is the Arthur Shastra. This is geopolitics in play. You align yourself with the enemy of your enemy to destroy your enemy. And once your enemy is gone, then you eat the other one. And that's what they'll do. Except what they don't realize is the Soros and their like the leftists will be consumed by the outpopulation that's taking place as they're bred out of existence by the Islamist groups. That's what they don't understand, is that they're playing with fire and they don't realize it because they're too stupid to realize it.
Oh, they think they're safe. They don't care, right? They're okay, so they don't care about the rest of us.
Well, that's true. They definitely don't care about the rest of us. We see that each and every day, and that includes most of the people in Washington, D.C. There are very few patriots left in D.C., and now we've got even fewer. Did you see what's going to happen there? The Democrats, Zoran the Moran, backed 3 of his leftist, socialist, anti-American, anti-Semitic, Jew-hating scumbags, and now they're going to be Democratic candidates in the fall in Democratic districts, and they'll wind up in Congress, and the squad will be larger. This country is about to be stolen from us, and people don't realize it. 2028 is very scary.
That's what we keep saying. You got to get out there, people. You got to get out and vote. You got to be part of the process. And if you feel like your vote doesn't matter, listen, don't sit at home and not vote because you feel like it doesn't matter because you're just giving it to them. At least make them work for it. At least make them have to work hard to steal elections.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Oh, they do work hard to steal elections already.
Yeah, but I mean, if you just sit on your haunches, they don't have to work so hard. So,
for sure.
Yeah, it's very important, and I don't think people understand it. Like I said, Democrats, I'm not talking to you. Sit at home, enjoy yourselves, take the day off. But
your election day, your election day is the day after, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm kidding. But no, but you think about Republicans. I've heard conservatives for years, and think about I call it barbershop talk. Going to the barbershop as a kid, getting your hair cut or whatever. People talk about, well, I just won't vote. They're going to put in who they want anyway. The big conspiracy theories. It's like the reason the bad guy got elected county commissioner by 10 votes is because 10 people like you stayed at home. And you're complaining. You sat at home. The bad guy got elected, for crying out loud. That's how they got elected in New York. Also, people that flee these cities and flee these territories, thinking that they're doing themselves a service. It's like you're just allowing the cesspool to take over a given geographic location like New York.
Yeah, but I think that's working in New York because all the rich people are leaving with all their socialist programs. Sure. They're expecting 34,000 people to support the city of New York with taxes and stuff. 34,000 they're looking at are the very affluent people. And those are the ones that went to Florida and moved into town. I don't know if you realize or not, but Goldman Sachs, is looking to start diversifying out in New York City. They're looking at Dallas, Texas now. And so a lot of these large corporate entities are looking at New York City and go, "You're not just going to turn the screws to us. We can vote with our feet." Hello,
Right.
So they're going to play, and Texas is the growing state in the union right now for this. I mean, so many
Right.
businesses. Where did Elon Musk go when he decided to vacate California? Texas.
Smart, yeah. And you think about it, you don't need. I mean, as far as Wall Street, for crying out loud, you can do Wall Street anywhere in the world. Wall Street's just a colloquialism at this point. You don't have to be in a geographic location to do any trading, for crying out loud. Most trading is done, not even in New York. Most trading is done online or through other means, for crying out loud, other locations.
It is, and if they want to set things up in Dallas, they could actually ring that bell in Dallas just as much as they can. City. I mean, you got a trading in LA right now.
Right. Most of it's symbolic in New York at this point.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, I don't know, man. I think this is blowing up. Mom Donnie was approached about this, I believe, from the governor. Holcomb had approached him and talked to him about this and says, "Listen, we're not giving you all this money and doing all these things you want to do because we're losing our people." And she's literally on a world stage begging for millionaires to come back, saying, "We need your taxes, so we can support our social programs." Now, what kind of response is that? You're begging now for them to come back. They went away for a reason, lady. You better fix your policies if you want them to come back. And unfortunately, that means less taxes.
Right, absolutely. I mean, there's so much that New York could offer to people who would want to live there. I mean, there's a lot to the city, for crying out loud. I mean, a lot of history there. So why wouldn't you want to live there? I mean, your government shouldn't be the reason why you don't want to live somewhere, for crying out loud. Your government should do everything they can to make you want to live there. Lower crime, for crying out loud, ensuring that you have good first responders, good government, low taxes or reasonable taxes, for crying out loud, low fees for things, and basically a good climate for business, if you will, especially if you want to start a mom and pop small business, for crying out loud. But New York is not that, for crying out loud. It's not that. It's not going to be that unless you change your policies, like you just said.
If you look at the state of New York, I think a lot of it really is red. Not New York City. Now, Albany, but a lot of New York upper state is predominantly red. So it's a shining example of how the smaller area, being populated as it is, can influence the rest of the state.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely, for sure. Tonight, I think, what was it said before the show? We heard on the news that Trump's going to be opening the America State Fair or something like that. What was that? What it's called?
I don't know. I missed that.
250 State Fair, Great America State Fair, I think it is. But that opens tonight.
Oh, is this on the National Mall?
Yeah, the National Mall. I think that kicks off tonight, or is it tomorrow? Something like that.
I'm not sure on that one, but yeah, I had actually forgotten about that. Getting back to the reflecting pool there, the company that laid that said they're going to have to drain the pool now and fix what's been damaged. They said it's not a whole lot of damage there. They can fix it. And unfortunately, what that means is they're going to be exceeding the July 4th holiday, I think.
Oh, man. Okay. Yeah, but I'm wondering, but also I was reading somewhere that they took a filter off where they fill it. And I heard conflicting reports of the water that they use, whether it was DC tap water or whether it was from the Potomac, and I heard it was DC tap water, and then all of a sudden they said it was from the Potomac, which was rife with algae bloom. So I'm not sure. I thought it was the DC tap water that they used.
Dude, that thing is like 6.75 million gallons worth of water.
Right.
So I think they took a big heavy pumps pulling it out of the Potomac, and yeah, you're right. They were that's the claims as they were pulling it out of the Potomac and filled it out of there. And you think they would have went through a filtration system? We were talking about algae growth and stuff, and I do have a swimming pool at home. 30,000 gallons worth, and that algae grows fast.
Oh, for sure. Especially in a lower, it's a shallow body of water. It's a large body of water, but it's shallow. And of course it gets so warm, for crying out loud. And algae just loves shallow, warm water. And of course, it was easy to have algae growth, for crying out loud. But without a filtration system that can handle it, you're going to have algae blooms, especially if the water came from the Potomac, which I'm not sure of. So.
Okay, the Great American State Fair kicks off Thursday, June 25th, 2026, running daily through Friday, July 10th, 2026. I got some friends going to go down there before too long. They're going to have a really good time down there.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
So,
And you said it runs through when?
July 10th?
Okay,
Yeah,
July
Friday,
10th.
July
Okay.
10th. So, yeah, that's going to be big doings, I think. Nice celebrations down there for the nation's 250th birthday. So, yeah, kind of jealous now I'm not going. I know 10-4 on DC happens October down there, but it's going to be long past the fair. So, even if I make that event, I don't know. That's kind of a bad time of year for me to be running to DC.
Right, that's for sure. Busy season for you.
Well, this is my busy season, and I got to work it every bit I can. And unfortunately, I just blew a fuel injector in the truck yesterday, so I am down again. I'm going, what's going on here? Not during busy season. This does not or should not happen during busy season.
Gotcha. So if anybody who's wondering who can't see, there's Colonel. He's back. He stepped away for a minute. He's a little under the weather, but he's back here. For those who are watching, those on the radio are wondering why he wasn't speaking. He stepped away for a moment. So I apologize for not mentioning that. Colonel Chris Wyatt, he has returned, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that's a tough bug you got there, Chris. It looks to me the way you're coughing and stuff. It looks to me I had that, and I still kind of get that dry cough every now and again. It's been lingering, I don't have the cold or flu anymore, but that cough is horrible.
I actually haven't been coughing all that much. I've been coughing more now on the air. I turned the microphone off than I've coughed probably the past couple of days. No, that wasn't the issue. I had to step aside for something else. But no, it's not a cough. It's just a congestion. It's mostly gone, but it's still a little bit there. It's kind of lingering. So
yeah.
So did we get to President Trump? Pushing the nuclear button here. He's the Senate voted the resolution to tell him to withdraw from Iran. And his response is pretty clear today. He's threatening to veto the housing bill that was just overwhelmingly passed by the House and Senate if they don't pass the SAVE Act.
Right. Yeah. I saw that.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah, that sounds kind of crazy, but a little bit of a bullish. But at the same time, I guess it's within his power. What do they got to get? 2/3 vote to override his veto?
2/3. They got to wait 30 days, and if he doesn't sign it 30 days, then they can veto it. Or they can override his veto. But if he doesn't veto it, if he doesn't veto it within 30 days, then it automatically goes back to them. So they'll have to override. But they're not going to get 2/3 of the vote in the House and the Senate to override the president on anything. So they can just forget that idea. So I think it's great. He said today's housing news conference signing is hereby canceled until such time as we have desperately needed Save America Act, which I consider to be a national emergency. And thank you for your attention. In other words, if you don't fix voting so that we secure our elections, I'm not going to sign this housing bill. The housing bill is ridiculous anyway. It interferes in the capitalist market by blocking people from owning more than 350 individual homes, which raised the question: what about home builders? They own thousands of homes. What happens to them? I guess that's an exemption. But this is trying to target people like BlackRock and others who've been buying individual houses because they think it's driving up the cost of homes. And the reason the cost of homes gone up is because the cost of building has gone up. It's doubled while the government lied to us about inflation during the Biden years. But the price has been pretty consistent since then. I haven't seen any inflation taking place for the most part in the things that I buy. And in fact, you notice petroleum is now lower per barrel than it was before Trump went into Iraq 90 days ago. Isn't that interesting, Todd?
Yeah, that is interesting. And everybody said it was going to be, through the roof, record prices.
$200 a barrel. Remember that? And now the cost of oil, it was $79 a barrel the day that he went after Iran. Today it's under $70 a barrel. It's ridiculous.
Yep.
They do this every time, don't they? It's always this fear, promoting fear among people and trying to drive people emotionally. But it's to my understanding, Trump's also ordering the Department of Justice to do some investigating on some of these oil producers, thinking that they're price gouging, because he's saying, look, we got the oil prices down. There's no reason they're not coming down at the pumps more than they already have. And so he's a little upset with them, and he's ordering investigations, from my understanding, or according to what he posted on Truth Social.
But they will go down. It's not like they go down immediately just because you got a lot of product going through the Straits of Hormuz. It takes a while before it to go. It has to go through the system before.
We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. We said that it's not. It's always a process when the market corrects itself again. It seems like it goes down a little slower than it went up.
Right.
It's just natural. That's not unusual. I mean, the problem here is that the oil was already overpriced to $79 a barrel, with the production. The United States producing over 16 million barrels of oil equivalent a day, and Saudi Arabia with 11 million. We were more than meeting the 104 million barrels of a day that the world needed, and so we had a supply of oil that was more that was needed. And so 79 was a bit high in my view. I think it's more natural price for oil to be trading in the $50 to $60 range, which is where it's headed at the moment. We'll see if it gets there, but I'm not going to predict that. But the bottom line is there is a lag. It isn't instantaneous. Just because the price of oil goes down, that is oil. We're talking about futures, oil being purchased in the future. So that doesn't necessarily mean that the oil that's loaded in tankers being pumped out and shipped through refineries right now was purchased for that price. So of course there's going to be a lag. I think a lot of people don't allow for that. You got to be realistic and realize it takes 3 to 4 weeks for that stuff to work its way out. So I think a lot of people don't realize that, and it's understandable when you've been paying a lot at the pump that you want the price to go down. I know I'd like to see it go down too, but typically there's a lag, so you just have to allow for that. But the funny thing is that the price of gasoline in America has come down for 6 consecutive weeks. 6 weeks in the summertime. We're entering summer when the price of oil goes up because demand goes up for it, and so the supply is more scarce. Yet the price of gasoline has come down for 6 consecutive weeks. Now we're nowhere near the price it was when Trump took office, but we're getting there.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of interesting, but we already paid our summer prices during the spring. But yeah, it should be coming down below. I mean, considering the season and stuff, because it was so high. But then again, you got to figure out some of these countries got to restock their reserves, right? I mean, I know the United States, we depleted a lot of our reserves. It wasn't much talked about, but we did deplete a lot of our reserves trying to keep the cost more affordable for people. So that's got to be restocked. So that's going to be a little competition to keep the market up. However, we should see some relief in the future too, because Qatar promised to amp up their production levels. They broke away from OPEC and decided that they were going to start manufacturing as they see fit. And I think they want to double their production, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens with the production there, whether they pull it off. But we are the world's largest energy producer, largest oil producer, and among the world's largest LNG, liquefied natural gas producers. We are right up there with Qatar and Nigeria. So yeah, it's plenty of energy. We're awash in energy. So it's interesting. Someone was coming in my chat today talking about cold fusion and how they're holding back the technology. Well, they can deliver the technology. It's not going to release us from the use of oil. Oil goes into plastics. It goes into food. It goes into medicine. It goes into everything that we consume and use every day. So there will still be oil drilling and oil use into the future because there's no substitute for it in many respects. But people seem to lose sight of that.
Yep. Absolutely. So I got a question real quick. What is your assessment, and this is for you too, John, on the races in New York? And I hear a lot of stuff from different, political commentators. Tavis Smiley, as an example. Also, Letitia James up in New York is calling out the candidates, these socialist candidates that beat the Democrat establishment. Is the Democrat Party going to eat itself and tear itself apart before the midterms? And does this go bode well for Republicans in the midterms with the divide that they have?
Well, I think what it means is that these people in majority Democrat districts are going to wind up in Congress, and they're raving lunatics who hate America and Jew haters who need to be, consigned to the dustbin of history. But ultimately, I've predicted this for some time. The Democratic Party is going to have a schism, and it's going to split. Eventually, there'll be some adults who say, I can't be part of this, and the party's simply going to split. Either the radicals will form their own party, or, let's just call themselves Progressive Party of America, PPA. Why don't they just do that and break away? And then all these lunatics go away and people can see them for what they are. But the Democrats have destroyed themselves by allowing this insurrection to occur in their ranks. And the thing is that not enough Americans realize it. And the problem is that by the time people realize the danger, it's too late. We've already seen that California is off a cliff. We've seen what's happened out there with the radical stuff. New York is losing billions of dollars in revenue because wealthy people are leaving the city and people are not migrating there anymore because they don't appreciate what's happening there. So I think it's just going to be a disaster, and people think that the sun is brighter, the grass is greener elsewhere. Well, it's only brighter and greener if you do the right thing and moral people are elected. But we keep electing retards who are thieves and racists and bigots and liars on both sides of the spectrum. And until we start electing honest people, this is going to be the path this country's on. And it's not a good destination. It's not a route that I want to be. I want to get off this train the way it's going.
You also got to consider, we talk about the 2020 election and theft of elections. And it's like I was saying to the wife here recently, and we keep saying it. They don't just cheat elections for presidents. There's a
Right.
reason why some of these people are still getting in there. You got to question yourself. Why did Nancy Pelosi get reelected so many times? I mean, she's inept. She's incompetent. Yet she got it. She gets elected every time. Why?
Right.
I mean, some people will vote for
Yeah.
the incumbent because they like to know that the person that they voted for are empowered. But she wasn't somebody. I just can't fathom why people out in California would keep voting her in. I understand it is San Francisco.
Right. Yeah, and here's the thing: it's not about being the best candidate; it's about being the most flexible person. I'm using kind of air quotes on flexibility. That you're going to bend a certain way to the people who give you the money, and that's what they want. And I remember I've been to D.C. and of course 2018 I said I ran for Congress. 2020 I had an exploratory committee for a period of time. I went to D.C. and went to a number of organizations looking for support. Went to a number of members of Congress and I got meetings with some of their people looking for endorsement support, whatever I could get. And they're like, hey, we like you on paper. You're a great candidate. You speak well, and you have a mastery of the issues that you're championing. But that's not going to necessarily win you support or win you money, if you will. Yeah, you may win some votes in your district, but to get the big support, you need to be more flexible a different way. And that's what I was told. I said you need to be non-committal on certain things, but at the same time, be very open to anything that they want to throw your way. And that's how you're going to get the support.
Yeah,
In other words, you
And
need to be they need to be their boy.
Right,
Yep.
and now the person who I had assisted me in this is what they were telling me, by the way, and they're like, listen, I'm not telling you to sell yourself out, your morals, your values, or anything. It says, but be very flexible on most things. You don't have to commit to anything, but be very open on most things. And they threw out all kinds of stuff, and it was like stuff that I would definitely not be flexible on. But and I disagreed on a lot of things, and they're like, well, we appreciate you coming in. A lot of meetings were cut short because I was inflexible on several things. So to get into office, sometimes it's not about the best candidate or best person, best ideas. It's about being the most flexible person or morally compromisable person.
In short, it's what the party wants. And if you're not willing to go with what the party wants, then they're not going to support you.
Well, yeah, that and it's the organizations, it's big PACs. Also, it's people in leadership as well. They want somebody who's going to be, backing them and pushing them. You think about it. You get the leadership because people like you and they support you. But what happens when those members of Congress, House, Senate leave office or whatever? You need to replenish that supply. And of course, a lot of times they want people to sign on a blank check, if you will, to blindly support them for leadership, for this or that. And if you're not willing to do that, they're not even going to bother to support you. Their PACs won't support you.
So, yeah, you get what you call power brokers, right?
Right.
They
power
develop these
brokers,
big
sure.
PACs like McConnell did. And
Yeah.
now he takes his PAC money and he runs over here and says, Mr. Bulldog, let's have a conversation. Oh, you won't be backing me on this. Oh, you won't be backing me on that. Well,
Right.
you know what? I'm going to take my PAC money in my suitcase and I'm going home.
And that
And
happens.
so, yeah. So you
That
don't get the
happens.
backing of party members because you're not willing to back them on their agendas.
Right, and I got in front of Rand Paul's people and just sat down with them, and they were like, the person who one of the persons who was helping me, who got me that meeting, says they speak very highly of you, we like you, and they said, have they told you that to get support in this town, you got to be very flexible? And I said, oh, absolutely. And he said, and the guy who was talking to me, he said, here we don't really care about you being inflexible or flexible or whatever. We want to know that you're going to stand up and be principled, even whenever it's going to hurt you politically. And I said, I have no problem with that. And so obviously I didn't end up running, but that was the only group that actually said, we want you to stand up and basically be moral and all this and that. We don't care. We're not going to try to make you go one way or the other. We want you to be principled and stand up and have a spine, if you will. That was the only group that I spoke to that said that.
Did they talk about constitutional rights and things like that? Following
Right.
the
Yeah,
US
we got into things
Constitution?
like that for sure.
Yeah.
But
Do you happen to
and-
remember the name of that group? Because that seems like it's worth mentioning.
off the top of my head, I can't think of it. I think it was his PAC that he had. I can't think of it offhand.
okay.
But a lot of the other groups, they would say up front, like, whenever you leave here, we would maybe ask that you don't talk about what we discussed. They didn't ask me to sign anything. But his group, Rand Paul's group, was the only one that says, we don't care if you go talk about whatever we do here. We don't have a problem with that. He said a lot of groups will tell you, we would like you not to go talk about it, which is, par for the course, I guess, in DC.
I still like Rand Paul. I know he's not a Trump favorite. He does not support Trump, and I
He
get
voted
it.
against the president in that bill. He's one of 50 who voted to censure the president for Iran.
Yeah,
Right.
I appreciate Rand Paul for his mindset for liberties and freedoms. Politics is starting to take a different turn, in my opinion. I don't think he's being sensible on certain matters, like what you're talking about there, Chris. Voting against the president I think, to be spiteful more than it is about principled.
Well, speaking of spiteful people, in New York's 12th congressional district, which Mika Lasher won that thing, Mr. Kellyanne Conway, George Conway, the Trump hater, the deranged Trump hater, was running that race. Let's see, his vote total was 6,212 votes, or 6.1% of the vote total in the Democratic primary.
Wow. Okay.
6.1%. Yeah. So, loser. That guy who hates Trump made his life about going on MSNBC and CNN and hating Trump and lying about Trump. So that's Kellyanne Conway's husband. It just shows you that not everyone makes good decisions in life. I don't know what her problem was, but she picked the wrong one. Aren't they the ones with that wacky child too? Their daughter's a lunatic as well.
I don't know about that. I don't know if they have a kid. I'm not sure.
I thought they had a crazy.
But
yeah. Anyway,
yeah, definitely he's a nutter for sure.
but 6.1%. He thought he was going to get elected because that's the seat that
He was one issue guy. He was anti-Trump. And that was it.
Anti-Trump. Well, it's so that's the seat that the Penguin Jerry Nadler is vacating. So Jerry Nadler finally leaving Congress after being a liar for 30 years in Congress. So good to see him go. Yeah, but Kellyanne Conway's husband is done. These people are crazy. I mean, if you guys seen the latest, John, with Rashida Tlaib, I mean, this lunatic is upset that a bunch of terrorists were convicted. And here's the irony. She's standing up for all whites. Well, mostly whites. One looks like he's part Asian, Hispanic, but the rest are all white. These are terrorists. They were part of Antifa, and they got sentenced to a lot of jail time.
450 years combined?
Yeah, she's losing her mind over it. Yeah, the one guy got 100 years, the one who shot the police officer in the shoulder. Then that was Benjamin Song, so I guess he's the Asian. Zachary Evans, Autumn Hill, Savannah Batten, Elizabeth Soto, and Megan Morris were all sentenced to 50 years, while Marcella Rudella got 70 years. Convicted of riot, providing material support to terrorism, explosive charges, and she received an additional conviction for corruptly concealing a document or record. And this is what Rashida Tlaib said. These sentences are a travesty and totally unjustified. But that's the point. Americans hate the fascist Trump regime. So the only way they can try to clean the power is brute force. Is a grave threat to all of us, and more BS terrorism charges like this are coming. BS. These people sought to overthrow the U.S. government. They shot a federal law enforcement officer.
Yep.
They're terrorists. And she needs to be removed from Congress. She should be censored for this.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It was, I believe, 7 of them that were arrested. 400 years combined in their sentencing, and for all the crimes that they've committed. And it's about time we're starting to hear some more of Antifa members being arrested for their crimes that they have committed. It's funny in J6 when guys went into the Capitol building, invited by cops, unarmed, and just kind of meandered around and toured the place for a while. They were classified as insurrectionists, right? And got the worst of the worst thrown at them. And so these 7 guys who actually committed crimes that are verifiable and prosecutable and have been. And so now all of a sudden she's going to, they're innocent victims of the justice system. It's like, come on, lady, get a grip.
Yeah. 100%. No, look, this Rashida Tlaib is a lunatic. She needs to be censured and removed from Congress. I mean, they need to remove her from Congress. She's long overdue. Remember that she ran on election a few years back, and we're going to get the mother effer. We're going to impeach the mother effer. That's the basis for running for office in Michigan. And any idiot that voted for her in Michigan, shame on you. You're not a patriot. You don't love America. You hate this country. So just get the hell out. Canada is just a few swims away, a few backstrokes, and you can find your way to Canada from Michigan. Slide on across.
Or just walk across the bridge if you don't want to swim.
I'd prefer they burn a few calories on the way there.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's okay. I mean, the water's a little cold. If you make it, you make it. You don't, you don't. That's up to you.
Well, that's the other aspect of if they don't make it, that's just too bad on them.
That's right. So
broadcasting from 200 Main Street in the beautiful and historic Masonic Building. This is WSMN 1590 AM and WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Streaming live at wsmn.live.
USA Radio News, I'm Anthony Lucero. Before a contentious meeting with Senate Republicans, President Trump canceled plans to sign a bipartisan fair housing bill, saying he wants the Save America Act passed first.
Everybody wants it. Everybody is it, including Democrats. 87% of Democrats want it.
The election bill would require citizenship proof and photo ID for federal voting. The UN nuclear watchdog chief says inspectors will visit Iran's nuclear enrichment sites, but timing remains uncertain. The announcement follows conflicting messages from the U.S. and Iran over access. President Trump says Tehran has agreed to allow the inspections. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman warns a growing progressive wing of the Democrat Party is embracing sharply anti-Israel positions following recent New York primary wins, saying the shift marks a break from traditional Democrats. He appeared on Fox News.
And now this has just become, really, it's just been the dancing days of the dirtbag left.
Fetterman continued defending strong U.S. support for Israel and hardline warnings on Iran policy. President Trump says he called federal prosecutors in California to investigate the state primary election and took credit for Republican Steve Hilton advancing in the governor's race.
Had I not made that call, Steve Hilton would right now be watching the election from home.
He repeated his claims of rigged elections. Oil prices continue to fall. Domestically, it's selling for $70 a barrel. Internationally, $74. Wall Street closed mixed.
At the closing bell, the Dow added 182 points, the S&P 500 lost 7 points, and the Nasdaq fell 110 points. I'm Liz Warner.
From America's News Network, USA Radio News.
Maybe this is you too. There's enormous frustration right now with healthcare costs. It is amazing. Healthcare costs for families in the last 20 years have almost tripled, and it just keeps getting worse. All this to say, this is why MediShare is so in demand right now. People are looking for alternatives, and MediShare is proven. You can save thousands of dollars a year and actually like it more. Over 1 million Americans are now part of healthcare sharing, and MediShare is the gold standard. It's trusted, it works. It's been helping people save money and have peace of mind now for 30 plus years. It's not some big impersonal thing either. It's a community of people like you helping each other. So yeah, if you're frustrated too, here's your chance to make a refreshing change. You'll notice the difference as soon as you call. They're easy to talk to. You can get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number. Call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE 40. 855-SHARE-40.
Tired of wondering where your money really goes? At Mammoth Nation, we built what was missing. The America First Marketplace. Every brand we feature is 100% American owned and operated, rigorously vetted for their values and committed to supporting our Constitution, law enforcement, and the American dream. When you shop with us, your dollar stays in the neighborhood, supporting families, veterans, and charities like Folds of Honor. No more sending your hard-earned money overseas to the companies that don't respect you here. Your dollar reflects your values. Your dollar, your values, your America. Join Mammoth Nation today and be part of building a patriot economy by going to truckersunitedforfreedom.com affiliate page and hit that link. American built, America strong, Mammoth Nation.
Hi Nashua, I'm Perry Cataldo from Choice Benefit Services, your local insurance agent that has dedicated himself to all the Medicare plans in New Hampshire. Whether you're just turning 65, new to Medicare, or already have a plan, I'll explain all your Medicare options and extra benefits that you hear so much about. I ensure you're getting all you're entitled to at nh.com. I look forward to hearing from you. And remember, health is wealth.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago, servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. For From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument, memorials of distinction for people who care.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. If you're just now tuning in, you're listening to the Common Sense Conservatives right here, WSMN 1590 on your AM dial and 95.3 on your FM dial. I don't know if you guys heard or not, but Bernie Sanders apparently is making accusations that now that Elon Musk is a trillionaire, and as a trillionaire, he only pays Social Security the sum of somebody who makes $184,000 a year, and his bill will rectify that, and then he can pay his fair share into Social Security and all this other nonsense. But I'm thinking, and I think, Chris, you understand when it comes to higher finance and Elon Musk, he's a trillionaire on paper. He's not a trillionaire, as in he doesn't take home trillions of dollars into his personal bank account. It's not. It doesn't work that way for him.
No.
Bernie Sanders is a moronic piece of human sewage that should be taken out and horsewhipped on a daily basis for public consumption. He's a moron of the highest order, an absolute idiot, who went to the Soviet Union during the Cold War to celebrate his honeymoon. That tells you all you need to know about Bernie Sanders. He's a multimillionaire who rails against wealth, who's accumulated wealth illegitimately, having never worked a single job in his life. He's been living off the taxpayers' teat his entire life. His first job was as mayor of a city in Vermont at the age of his mid-30s. He never held a job in his life. He's never done a thing. He's a piece of human sludge. I don't care what Bernie Sanders has to say. His opinion has no value whatsoever. The guy's a clown. Yes, Elon Musk is not a trillionaire. He doesn't have $1 trillion in the bank. It's wealth. And his company lost $600 billion in value in one day. This is just ephemeral. It's just ridiculous. Elon Musk sold his Tesla stock, a portion of it a few years ago, and got $42 billion in income. And for that income, he paid $13 billion in federal income tax in a single year. More money than any American has ever paid in the entire history of this country in income tax. In 1 year, he paid. In 1 year. And as far as Social Security tax, these scumbags in Congress set up this Ponzi scheme, and the Ponzi scheme limits the amount of money that can go into, because it limits the amount of money you can draw out of the Ponzi scheme. So you're capped. I don't know what the current cap is, but it was like used to be like $112,000, then like $118,000 a year. Anything you come over that, you can't earn credits towards Social Security, so you're not taxed on it because it does contribute. Because this is not supposed to be a tax on the rich. It was supposed to be a retirement account. And Bernie Sanders can shove this 3 ways to Sunday. I'm so sick of these idiots who are elected to Congress to steal money out of our pockets and lie and mislead the rubes out there. Social Security is a Ponzi scheme that is bankrupt, that has not had any money, that is taking money from current taxes coming in and is taking more money, and we're borrowing money to pay off people receiving Social Security already today. I will not receive my full Social Security benefit when I retire fully under Social Security, because first off, I have to wait 2 extra years. And by the time that happens in 2032, then it won't be there. Only 78% of them will be there, because this scam that they set up, and this is what they're coming for. Elon Musk shouldn't be paying anything in Social Security. None of us should. It's a fraud. It's a fraud. It's a fraud. And it's time for people to start realizing this and stop this nonsense. Elon Musk deserves his wealth. He's created 4,400 millionaires from one initial public offering alone. So all these crying little babies like Bernie Sanders with his 4 houses and his illicit gains, and Nancy Pelosi with $184 million in illicit gains from Visa stock because she's a fraud. I'm sick of them. They can just go somewhere else.
Absolutely, but it's not just Bernie Sanders. That's the thing of it. The leftist party itself feeds into this sort of ideals, and they chant this all the time. And so they look at people like Elon Musk and they call it an opportunity. Let's tell everybody this guy's really a trillionaire and try to get people on the ropes how we're going to screw him over. But what people don't realize is they use these sorts of angles to get you to buy into the cage you're going to be fitted for. So when they pass these bills, or passing bills that are actually not beneficial to you in the long run, and somebody like Elon Musk goes, go ahead and pass it, doesn't affect me because I only pay according to what I draw out. And if I'm drawing nothing because I got plenty to live on for the rest of my life, what I've already drawn out, then I don't pay into it. Good luck.
It's a Ponzi scheme. There's nothing there. There's no money in it. There's no lockbox. It's all just digits, zeros and ones. It's fiat. It's just garbage. It's nothing. There is nothing tangible there. You cannot leave your Social Security account to your children. If it were a tangible asset, you could do that, but it's not a tangible asset. So it's just nonsense. And it's the country's been hoodwinked since the 1930s.
Right. Yeah. If it was something like that, if I passed away prematurely, that money should be able to carry over to somebody. The fact is, it doesn't. It leads me to know that it's a Ponzi scheme for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's a pool, basically. They're saying you pay into this big pool that they decide how they're going to divvy it out, that they extract from for other reasons. And if you are a corporate entity, a business for profit, they would call you misappropriation of funds. They'd accuse you of misappropriating funds like Enron, and then turn around and try to prosecute you. But when the government does it, it's just doing government business.
Right. And they hold a large voting bloc captive by doing this.
In 1913, the income tax was introduced. It was supposed to be just on the rich. It was a cap of $500,000 in income. It was only a 7% tax. 5 years later, the top rate was 77%. That was what they did with income tax. Until John F. Kennedy became president, the top rate of taxation was over 90%. I think it was 93%. And JFK, of all people, a Democrat, lowered the income tax rate. And they just basically confiscated. So a tax system was set up in which people held onto the money and they didn't spend it. Because what's the point of earning more money? You're just going to be taxed on it. So that money went into buying assets, which accumulated in value. And that's how they made money, by having assets. And so it froze up a large chunk of the economy. These people are stupid. This money has just allowed the government to expand and expand and expand. Social Security is nothing but a Ponzi scheme. It's a way to steal money. In the 1980s, the Reagan administration and Tip O'Neill, in a Faustian deal, doubled the rate of taxation. Double the rate of taxation on Social Security. So now you pay 6.25% of your income out of your pay up to a threshold of just over $100,000, and your employer matches that. So without that contribution to Social Security, which is a Ponzi scheme, you could potentially have an income of at least 12.5% more. Your employer could pay you 12.5% more that wouldn't go to that. Mm-hmm. And people don't even realize this. They don't see this because the money disappears from their check before they ever get it. And at least with income tax, they see, oh, I'm going to get something back, or this is what I'm paying. But with Social Security, you don't get anything back. In fact, we're paying people who've never, ever paid into Social Security. People come to this country, never paid a penny in Social Security, and they're getting benefits from it. That's not what Social Security is meant for. It was not meant to be welfare. It was not meant to be a disability fund. But they've created the Social Security disability payment for people who never worked and are disabled and get a check from it. That money should have come from somewhere else. What they've done is, remember when Bill Clinton supposedly balanced the budget? He and of course, Newt Gingrich. What a scam that was. Instead of balancing the budget, they had $368 billion surplus in 1 year. $368 billion surplus in the Social Security fund. They took that money and they spent half of it in the general revenue, and the rest they put down as, well, we had $168 billion surplus. There was no surplus. You stole the money from Social Security. There's nothing there. If you'd left the money there and actually bought assets like rare earth mines or property or a country like Greenland, maybe there'd be something. But there's nothing. There's nothing there. It's all fiction, and it's all going to come crashing down. When you look at the total actual debt that this country owes, when you take unfunded pension liabilities, you take the debt from the national government, the state, the local governments, city governments, you throw on corporate debt and personal consumer debt, and then the biggest one, mortgage finance debt. This country owes well over $200 trillion, possibly as much as $300 trillion. That's 10 years of GDP. We'll never pay that off at the rate we're going. This is ridiculous. It needs to be turned around.
Right. It does, and the debt keeps climbing. The debt clock's there, just ticking away.
Yeah, but that's just one fraction of it. That's what people see. Yeah. That $40 trillion that's the federal debt is just a piece of it. You've got states that owe debt. You've got municipalities that owe debt. You've got you've got these tax-exempt municipal bonds that are used to finance waterworks and gas works and streets and highways and schools and things like that. All of that is debt. Somebody has to pay that. The money has to come from somewhere, and it's a lot of debt. And then the unfunded pension liabilities. That was the big problem with General Motors. The reason they had to go bankrupt is because they had billions and billions and billions of dollars of people who work for 30 years or 40 years at GM and are owed a pension. And there's no money there because they never set anything aside.
Right. Yeah. I heard it said, from somebody who actually worked at GM, said you can't, work somewhere for 30 years, pay them, to whatever you pay them to turn a wrench, and then pay them another 30 years after they retired about the same price, to do nothing. It's like it's not sustainable.
Well, you can if you take a small portion of what you would have paid them and put into something that's going to accrue in value over time. But they never did that. They just simply, we'll pay it off later. And that's exactly what's happening with Social Security now. They've stolen money since the 1980s, the money that was supposed to be in Social Security. If they'd left that money alone, we'd have tens of trillions of dollars sitting in there. Well, trillions of dollars sitting there right now. There'd be no shortfall. We wouldn't have to worry about this nonsense. But instead, they stole the money and spent it on ridiculous things like bridges to nowhere in Alaska. Or wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's ridiculous.
Right. Yeah.
Or bailing out, all these companies like Shearson Lehman and all these other, not Shearson Lehman, but Bear Stearns, bailing out all these corporations that should have been allowed to fail. All these banks that should have been allowed to fail.
Right. Absolutely, for sure. And they should have failed, but because of their bad decisions. Instead, we said, hey, your bad decisions in the future don't matter. You can do whatever. You can play, loose and whatever you want to do with the other people's money. And now all of a sudden, what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing from people is some of the things that they got away with before 2008, if you will, is actually worse. So because they got the bailouts, and they know that they're going to get a bailout in the future, too big to fail. So it doesn't matter.
And who initiated this? The man who just died at 100, who people are hailing as a genius, Alan Greenspan.
Yeah.
He facilitated these bailouts. A man who back in the 1960s wrote against these very things, whose head was straight on in the 60s when he was a younger man, and said that this is not what you do. You do not reward failure. You let these people fail, and they face consequences. Otherwise, we all pay the price. And that's exactly the opposite of what he did when he became the chairman of the Federal Reserve. He kept interest rates artificially low, making credit easy, making it easy for people who shouldn't have money to borrow money, to take risk, which put our economy in jeopardy. The whole subprime mortgage lending situation is a consequence of the garbage that Alan Greenspan brought into this country. He was the chairman of the Federal Reserve when that crap happened. He's responsible for 2008. He and a host of others in the Federal Reserve, they made this thing possible, along with Congress and its community Fair Housing Act, whatever the heck that thing was. That stupid law that forced people to loan money to people who are not creditworthy, and of course they couldn't pay the loans back, and that's what sparked the whole thing. And ironically, George Bush warned people when he was running for re-election in 2004 that this was coming, and they didn't pay attention to him. I did. I listened, and I already knew because I knew before that, and I said he's right. And they didn't do anything about it. So then when it happened, they blamed George Bush for it. And that's how we got Barack Obama, because of the 2008 crisis. That had nothing to do with George Bush. It had everything to do with Congress and with Alan Greenspan. Shame on them.
Were you thinking of Dodd-Frank earlier?
Also, some of the policies that they put in place in the 70s as well led to this. It just accumulative over decades.
John, what were you saying?
I was asking if you were thinking of Dodd-Frank. That was one of the programs put together for lending.
No, not Dodd-Frank and not TARP. I'm talking about the Community Reinvestment Act. That's what it was. It was the Community Reinvestment Act. That forced people to loan money to people from communities that were historically neglected, black borrowers who didn't have the resources. Lots of black Americans have the credit history and the ability to pay back loans, but many didn't. And the banks were forced to make loans to people who weren't creditworthy under the Community Reinvestment Act. Mm-hmm. And that's what led to the subprime market. And that's what led to the subprime collapse, is because people simply didn't pay back their loans. And less than 3% of subprime mortgages, which are less than 5% of the total market, were responsible for nearly bringing down the entire global financial system. Think about that. Only a few thousand loans. That's how rickety this whole thing was, because of Congress intervened and impacted and poisoned the free market. This is what happens when these politicians get their hands on things. Like this thing right now. Well, these corporations can only own 350 houses. They haven't even thought about the repercussions, the knock-on effect, this downstream effect of what they're doing. They just think they know what they're doing, and they don't. And Trump is right to ignore that. I hope the thing gets vetoed.
Yeah, they take that Commerce Clause just a little too far, don't they?
Well, the Commerce Clause has a place, but it's being abused, much like the equal protection under the 14th Amendment is abused, just much like citizenship is being abused, birthright citizenship. It's not how it was intended.
Yeah, they stretch it. To your point, Todd, you're right. It's kind of like a cascade event, right? Or event cascade. One thing leads to another, and over time, they just keep downward spiraling, building off from what they previously built. And bad decisions beforehand lead to bad decisions today. So I always tell people, that old saying, desperate times call for desperate measures. No, because they usually lead to bad outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and whenever you leave Wall Street or any industry to kind of their own devices, they're going to come up with ways that's end up going to having a negative compromise, or I guess consequence for the rest of us. And of course, we left Wall Street to their own devices and I don't like heavy overburdensome regulation, but we left them to their own devices for decades upon decades. People were blowing the whistles, but the regulatory agencies did nothing, and we had a blow up in 2008.
Yeah, well, the 2008 financial crisis was avoidable. This was all consequence of the government and easy credit. That's the problem with people who aren't creditworthy. You give money to people who aren't creditworthy, they aren't going to pay it back, and then you shake the whole foundation. I mean, it's like these loans and grants we give to these developing countries, and then we give debt relief. I mean, somebody's paying for that. You know, when Venezuela just announced they have $240 billion in debt they can't pay back. Guess what? That's going to be wiped off. And who's going to pay for that? We are. Because who made the loans? Probably American banks made the loans to the Venezuelan government, most likely. And so they're going to write it off, and it's going to cost us in higher interest costs, and it costs us in banking fees. And we pay for this over and over again.
Wait a minute, they do have marketable oil thanks to Trump. You mean we can't get some of that back through the oil sales?
Well, who is we? The banks? Are they going to get the
money is going into other people's pockets there, Joe.
Exactly.
Yeah. That money's spoken for by somebody else.
Yep. That money's already spoken for. That's right. 100%. No, this is such. Governments destroy wealth. They destroy people. They pick and choose winners. They let Lehman Brothers fail, but they bailed out Bear Stearns, which was bought by J.P. Morgan for a song, and has made them incredibly wealthy. All these corporations got tens of billions of dollars. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were bailed out. For years, I argued this against this. The problem with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac is they're quasi-state entities. They're parastatals. They're publicly traded stocks, but they get their charter from Congress, and they must fulfill a mission for Congress to provide housing for those who can't get loans otherwise, for whatever reason, usually poverty or whatever, or discrimination. So they have to provide, they back those mortgages, they get those mortgages to those people. Less than 5% or less than 15% of the population actually qualifies for a loan backed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Yet by the time that this thing blew up in 2008, they held 67% of every mortgage in the country. 2/3 of the mortgages were in the hands of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac because as a publicly traded company, they had to give a return to shareholders to get their stock price to go up. And since they're not in a business that generates money from a standpoint of a growing business because they can only borrow so many or make so many loans under the law, the way it was designed, they bought up secondary mortgages. They bought mortgages, and they bought bad mortgages. And what they did is by buying that, they got more cash flow, which meant they could pay dividends to the investors. And the more return they got, the higher the stock price went. So they got a return for the investors. And so they're answering the investors, they're answering Congress, and they're answering the people that they're chartered to serve. You can't answer all these masters. And as a consequence, they held most of the bad paper. And the thing is, for years, when Countrywide or Wells Fargo or Bank of America would go into the markets to borrow hundreds of billions of dollars to make mortgage loans, which is what banks do. People don't realize that. Other banks loan the money, bigger banks, they borrow the money to make mortgages. They were always getting it 1/4 to 1/2 a basis point higher than Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Why? Because the government guaranteed they wouldn't fail. So they were a safer risk. So banks would give them the money at a cheaper rate. So they got the rate at a cheap rate and gave a better deal to people who are less creditworthy, whereas you and I had to borrow money from Wells Fargo, not from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and we paid a higher rate. We were already paying a penalty because of this corrupt system. So the government-backed institutions, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mae, got cheaper loans, and then they amassed all this debt, and then the whole house of cards nearly collapsed. And exactly the promise that was made implicit was that we will not let them fail. Too big to fail. So when they screwed the country over with their bad business practices in 2008, and it came back to haunt them, the government bailed them out. And then we paid tens of billions of dollars to bail them out. And then we also paid in the marketplace. This is disgrace. This is what happened. And the world ignored it. They blamed it on capitalism. It had nothing to do with capitalism. This is not capitalism. This is government policy that perverted the free marketplace. And we're still dealing with the consequences of it today.
Right. Yeah. You're talking about it was interference in capitalism that caused the problem here, not capitalism itself.
Well, the role of government is to ensure a level playing field. This is not a level playing field when you guarantee that people who are not creditworthy can borrow money because you have compassion because they're irresponsible. That's not compassionate. That's stupid. That's stupid. Right. There's a reason why there are winners and losers in life. There are losers in life because people make bad decisions, foolish decisions. People who drink too much, people who gamble too much, people who are irresponsible, people who have no discipline when it comes to finances. It is not your responsibility, my responsibility, or the state's responsibility to carry those people. In that 10,000 years ago, they would have been the ones that starved to death because they didn't fashion tools to hunt down the beast. We fashioned tools. We went on a hunt. We worked together. We took down the beast. We fed our families. They starved to death, and that's Darwin. Their gene pool died. But now we carry these losers along. Oops, that's going to piss off a lot of people. Too bad.
Well, they're not listening, trying to improve their life. That's for sure. They're out looking to grift or get high or something like that. So,
No, look, I mean, there are people who have fallen down as a consequence of no fault of their own, bad circumstance happen, and we do help them out. But that is not what this system did. This system carried people who had no business, no respect. I mean, these are the people that go down. All right, well, I'll get a lottery ticket here. Give me some smokes. Give me my Marlboros. Give me that Mad Dog. No, that's not responsible.
Oh, he does that in a southern accent too. Listen to him.
Now, well, hold on now.
Would you prefer did it in an Anglo-Saxon, a Hispanic, or a black accent?
I'll attest. I mean, there's a lot of folks that way. I don't advocate people to smoke, but if you're going to smoke, be frugal about it. Buy a carton. Don't buy just one pack of smokes. If you're gonna drink yourself to death, don't buy just the one beer from the market on the corner.
But Todd,
buy from an actual a grocery store. You're saving money.
The change in my ashtray didn't amount to a whole carton, bro. I could get a pack.
Okay, so we all
I don't advocate for any of that, but I'm
we
just
all
saying, if you're gonna do it, be frugal.
Tell me you don't have a family member or a neighbor or a relation that is like this. That it doesn't matter how much money they have, they'll never have a penny. Because they're irresponsible. They will spend it all. And so is it your responsibility to carry them? No, it's not.
They say almost 100% of lottery winners become bankrupt in no time.
Yeah, because they don't know how to handle the money because it's newfound wealth and they just blow it. It's like sports athletes,
Right.
I have no empathy for someone that had a $75 million contract and is bankrupt. That's your fault. And I
Zero.
don't want to hear you had no education, you did know better. No, I do blame the sports leagues as well. I mean, they bear some responsibility for financial planning before they ever award these big contracts. These clubs, they should be forced to go through financial planning. But look, people make dumb decisions in life. That's the reality of life, and not planning for your future is one of them. Look, you get hit by a bus tomorrow. You're 22, walk into a bus, it's over. But if you didn't plan for tomorrow, then there's nothing there. But if you plan for tomorrow, then there's something there. Even if it's so amount. But if you don't get killed when you're 22 and you save and invest, then when you're older, you have something. You have the resources. You don't have to rely on the kindness of strangers. You don't have to rely on milking the government. You don't have to rely on being dependent on the state. Why does anybody want to be dependent on the goodwill of others? It's beyond my comprehension. I don't understand it.
I don't know why anybody wants to be dependent on the state. The last thing you should ever want to be dependent on is the government, whether it's state or federal.
Exactly. That's exactly my point.
The quote unquote government programs, they turned upside down. Like you said, they originally, started out to help people to ensure that they don't end up in abject poverty. But now all of a sudden it's the other way around. It's cradle to the grave mentality, where as soon as you're born, we're going to give you something. And as long as you're voting the right way, we're going to make sure you're always going to have money. We're going to take care of it. Even though inflation is going to destroy the value of it, we're going to keep putting money in your pocket as long as you vote for us. And it doesn't, I guess it doesn't foster, independence, if you will. And of course, a good work ethic for sure. And more people are being dependent on the kindness of strangers, those around them, more dependent on family, whatever the case may be, as a result for this mentality.
So what you're saying, Todd, is the left likes to cater to the underdog and say, we're going to make it so you can succeed. Honest to God, all the way cradle to grave. Well, all the time they keep saying it's those darn conservatives over there, so Republicans that keep tripping us up, and we can't do anything for you. While they're at the same time catering to the same corporate entities as the right are that they keep accusing the right of being catering to.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, life's not fair, but if you stay on the government plantation, we're going to make sure that it's a little bit more fair for you. But you're not going to be, you're not going to be successful in life if you do that. You're always going to be a victim. You're always going to find some fault with somewhere else instead of looking at yourself and saying, hey, yeah, life isn't fair. Stuff sucks, but here's how I can make it better by being a positive individual and going out and actually working and trying to build something and not voting for Dems.
So we do have a question here in the comments. This gentleman's asking thoughts on NATO. That he's extremely worried as a European that both the Dems and Trump seem to be okay with massive aggression into Europe. I'm not sure what you mean by massive aggression, as in immigration or warfare. I mean, we do have Ukraine and Russia going at it, but
but Russia's not taking over Eastern Europe anytime soon. That's not going to happen. So I don't see any aggression there. I see the aggression being the unchecked immigration that they've allowed.
Yeah, that's the concern for Europe.
That's
I
the
think.
problem.
I wonder if that's not his concern, but I don't think that's a NATO concern as far as
throughout the
immigration
history of Europe. That's been the problem, though, right? The people that just immigrate there. Sometimes it's immigrating with force, right, to mainland Europe. The Moors did it. I mean, for crying out loud. I mean, the Nazis were already there. They didn't have to go far.
I think the Moors were invaders.
Right?
The Moors out of Africa, and they were encouraged to by somebody from the Mideast went into northern African country and started teaching Muslim and tell them to be invaders and send them out there, and that's what led to
but we're there because Europe at that point was fractured and weak, and now we're back to that point, right? History repeating. Radical Muslim invaders, for crying out loud. I mean, it was the Moors once upon a time. Now it's radical Islam that's invading these countries.
It is, but it's been a problem. That's why they had the Crusades, as far as I know. That's the whole premise behind the Crusades.
Yeah, the Crusades were a response to invasion. They were not an invasion of the Middle East. They were a response. They were a response to countries being overrun by radical Islam, right? They were pushing back so that Christians could go to the Holy Land and pilgrim, right? Basically pilgrim to the Holy Land, see the sights, etc., and not be killed or put into slavery.
Islam nations have been aggressors throughout history, is what we're getting at here. And it's interesting to me, too, because it seems to me aggressors seem to gain ground. Did you notice we had 9/11? And all of a sudden now we have this invitation of everybody in the Middle East, everybody and their brother Phil. And I like that video where this woman's talking about, so there are peaceful Muslims, but 25% of them are jihadists. 25% of 100% of Muslims are jihadists. That's a pretty large number when you start putting it into the millions and having to migrate into other countries.
Mm-hmm. And the mindset for the radicals is to, basically export it around the world. That's their idea. It's not about, having a homeland, if you will, having peace, having prosperity, trade with neighbors. No, it's spreading a radical ideology or killing those who refuse to convert or bend the knee to them.
There's enough people put videos together out there listening to these leaders in their Muslim community saying, we're going to these Western countries. We're invading these Western countries. We are going to take over these Western countries and force them to become Muslims. They've said this a number of times out loud.
Right.
And now you're hearing about other things going on in England or the UK, and it's no wonder. And the thing about it is this news article come out, a week ago or so, about the 250,000 people being gang raped and prostituted and all this other criminal activity that's going on. But we were talking about this 10, 15 years ago that this was going to be happening. We were talking about this 10, 15 years ago that this was already happening in a lot of these European countries, and having concern it's going to start happening in the United States. And I do have sirens coming.
What did you do?
Well, it's an ambulance, so I'm healthy.
Oh, okay.
They're coming for you, yeah. So,
maybe it was the Men in Black.
Right?
No, the Men in Black are the whisper, quiet helicopters.
There goes an Xfinity truck.
Great. There goes our cable connection. Nobody's going to hear something? No. So, I don't know, man. We've known about it for decades here. We talked about it since 9/11 happened in the United States. But interesting enough, 9/11 happens in the United States, and all of a sudden, we're all open to Muslim. Oh, that's twice I hit that microphone. We're all open to Muslims coming over to the United States, and some of it seemed like it was resentful on their part, like they were being forced into it more than they didn't want to leave their homelands and stuff.
Well, there are people who were displaced because of war who didn't want to leave that came here or other places. That is true, but that's not necessarily the case across the board. There are people who are didn't want to come here, but that's not necessarily true again across the board.
No, not across the board. Well, the ones that wanted to, there are ones that wanted to come here simply for reasons we described, and I'm sure there's that 75% of peaceful Muslims, and I appreciate them for being peaceful.
Sure.
They probably wanted to come here too for a better life and get away from things that were going on over there in their own countries. And I have family members, not in my bloodline, in my daughter's bloodline, because I'm married to who I'm married to, her, let me think a second, her great grandparents were from Syria and Lebanon. Married couple who are Christians that were trying to escape persecution of Christianity, come to the United States. Great people, you know. So, and of course, we welcome that. If the door is open to them and we have vetting processes and they meet all the criteria and they come over to create a better life and assimilate in the United States of America, not talking against those folks.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's a fair point. We have a lot of Muslims who escaped from Bosnia when that fell apart. But here's the thing: no country in the world is in conflict that's on our border. So all these people could have gone somewhere else once they reach safe haven. That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
So this whole thing about us taking refugees, I think it's a bit silly. But anyway. Whatever.
So to Darius, to your question, though, I think we all agree that our NATO's not going anywhere. The United States isn't leaving NATO; it's not falling apart, and Trump can't pull us out of NATO on his own. It takes an act of Congress over here. So
it's a treaty. It's a NATO treaty, so we can't be removed from it. That's correct. President doesn't have the authority. Never had the authority. So it shows me how the media, they ran on this thing about the Trump's pulling us out of NATO. They ran this story knowing it's not even legally possible. Just what idiots they are. And how it's all got an objective here. There's a goal here, and that's undermine the United States. Trump can't remove us from NATO. We're not leaving NATO. NATO is a treaty obligation. We can't get out of it unless Congress votes to leave and the president signs that. So that's just the reality here. Presidents don't have the arbitrary power. In fact, the president was stymied today. His directive for IDs has been overturned by a federal judge, saying he doesn't have the authority to intervene in elections. The Constitution says that states run elections, and that's what the Constitution says. Yep. I said I didn't think this would stand up, and it turns out I'm correct. It doesn't stand up. That's why I'm still curious about the SAVE Act. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I suppose because Congress, it's a bill, and the president signs it, then it can affect the elections. But the president can't unilaterally decide what happens in elections. He can't do that. That's not what the Constitution allows for. So there you go. I mean, that's anyway. It's just frustrating, the nonsense that goes on.
It is. It is, and you're right. The media misleads people because if you tell the truth, it doesn't sell. The truth is boring. But if you doctor it up with a bunch of falsehoods and mix a little bit of truth in there and get people emotionally charged on it, all of a sudden, man, you're selling ad space all day long.
Yeah, fair point. But that's what they do. They're all about the clicks and about the attention. They don't care about the truth. Look, I mean, it's the New York Times. Again, let's go back to what I talked about earlier early in the program. They ran two stories, and one of them is a journalist who contacted me and said they wanted to do a story about me, about what I'm doing with the refugees. I said, okay. So that's New York Times. I'll answer his questions, but I mean, trust is another issue. So I arranged my schedule. I did a Zoom session with him, and we did it, and I haven't heard from the guy in over a month. He got what he wanted, and there's no story, and it was supposed to be a follow-up for the interview. That was just an introduction. Anyway, they ran a story about the refugee program, and they're crying about it, falsely telling people it's a white program, basically trying to tell that it's only for white people. And then they even admit in their own story that the State Department doesn't release statistics on ethnicity. So they're basically saying we can't verify what we're saying, but we're telling you it's a whites-only program. And the rest of the world is not coming over. And then they also try to give the false impression about what a refugee is. These people didn't flee from a war. Fleeing from a war is not the basis of refugee. Then they go down another path, the canard, the red herring that's always thrown out there about white genocide. It's not about white genocide. Nobody's coming to America on the basis of genocide. They're coming to America on the basis of racial persecution. And that's legitimate. That's the basis for refugee status. And also it includes blacks and browns and Indians who are coming over here as well. But they don't tell you that. They're just honest about it. And then the biggest hypocrisy in the story from the New York Times is they say that this is whites only. Well, we brought 300,000 Ukrainians. You didn't have a problem with that. But 6,000 white South Africans suddenly trips your meter. This is what the media does. They're just as honest. They're not even media. The fourth estate has become the toilet bowl. That's what it's become. It's so sad to see.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. 6,000 people from South Africa. I don't understand how that triggers somebody's outrage. It makes
because they're racist.
No sense.
Because they're racist. That's why.
No sense at all. This triggers my outrage all of a sudden. Rage. Weird. Odd. And I dare say the people that are coming here, by and large, if they do become citizens, are going to be good citizens, for crying out loud. Maybe not all, but a large portion of them will be good citizens and a great addition to our nation.
Well, whether the good citizens or not is a whole is not even germane.
No,
It's
for
a
sure,
question.
for sure.
It's the refugee program. It's not immigration. So, it's not even germane. Now, we didn't ask whether Somalis are going to be good citizens, or the Congolese, the Uzbeks, or the Kyrgyz coming over.
That
We
is
let
true.
them come over.
That is true.
So that's not even germane to the conversation. But yes, your
That's
point
true.
is valid. Your point's
That is
valid,
true.
but it's not even germane. So no, it's just so frustrating to see the stupidity that goes on here. It's just unbelievable.
Absolutely.
So who do why 9607? I think you need to clarify your statement on there on social media. You're calling Trump out on that, but he's basically saying it's nothing to do with white or black, just favor grifting for Trump. So I don't know where he's going with that one. That one just I don't know how Trump's favor grifting anybody. He's not getting anything out of it for sure.
Yeah, refugees are probably the least people that are coming here who can do any favors for anybody. You know, they're desperate folks who need to get out of a bad situation. I don't know what he means there. Like you said, he should clarify that. I don't quite get it.
So I'm not sure either what Holden was asking you, Chris. He did ask you a question on there. I don't know if you've seen it or not.
How many cartel mass graves along the border does it take before it's a problem then?
I'm not really sure what that has to do with the topic at hand.
I think we were talking about when immigration and stuff like that, and they're supposed to go to their own country. But yeah, I don't know how the cartel got into that.
I don't see mass graves along the Mexican border though either.
Well, the mass graves are by drug cartels killing Mexicans, but they're not. Mexicans aren't coming here as refugees.
Yeah, they're not trying to come
here. When Haitians cross the border on the Rio Grande as a refugee, that's fraud. They're not refugees. They were in Mexico. It's a safe haven.
Yeah, but cartels aren't killing people at the border. They're trying to help people get across the border because it's lucrative for them because they make money.
Well, no, there have been plenty of mass slaughters and mass graves and just below the border in Mexico from these groups. So I think that's what they're doing.
Have there? But for the people that they're smuggling over though, that's a lucrative and beneficial to them. Am I right?
Well, it's a whole different kettle of fish, but yes, you make a good point there. But both these things can be true.
I think what you're talking about is opposition. They've had people, reporters, and things like that have spoken against the cartel, and they will hunt them down and kill them. They have no qualms about it at all.
Yeah.
So, and they also have, it's not just the cartel, but it's the cartels in Mexico. You have different drug cartels and stuff who are opposition to one another. That happens. But I don't know that has anything to do with what Holden was getting at. So why do I 9607 says he feels like it's Trump doing Elon Musk a favor. I don't know how it does Elon Musk a favor, brother.
Well, Elon Musk doesn't care about South Africa. People need to get this out of their head. It's like the whole thing. Elon Musk, this obsession. It's like the reason America's upset with South Africa is because of the genocide case of the ICJ. It has nothing to do with it. This is coffee table analysis from people that don't know what they're talking about, uninformed. Elon Musk has nothing to do with this. Nothing to do with this. This is not about Elon Musk. And Elon Musk how would it be doing a favor bringing people from South Africa? It's not a favor. It's not like we've captured all the Nazi scientists. We brought them over to start the NASA program. That would be doing somebody a favor. Come on, we're not doing that.
Doing ourselves a favor for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, now somebody says here, do you guys agree that there are other countries that need it more? Well, it's not about whataboutism. This other country needing it more. It's just the fact that South Africa has this program and they're able to take advantage of it. It's certainly not racist, but are there other countries that may need it? For sure. Let's talk about it. Let's work on it. But whataboutism about they're getting it, I'm not getting it. Other countries could get a refugee program.
We've had a lot of immigration from other countries in Africa.
Yeah.
As a whole.
Well, this is not immigration. This is separate. This is a refugee program.
I get you. Yeah, you're right.
John said we've had immigration. It's not immigration. There's a difference.
We should clarify ourselves. We should clarify.
Well, we've had we can go back to history and stuff, and there were situations where people could have used asylum or refugee status to escape certain things that were going on. I mean, Kenya's got a long history of genocide, do they not? Where they attack each other because they're different tribes or different clan, whatever you call it, when they're from different groups.
We have no obligation to take anyone in this country.
That's true.
Not obliged. That is, we're a sovereign state. We can take who we want, not who we want. Whether other people are whether they should be here or not is not germane. The issue, the topic here is the program that the New York Times wrote about in an effort to disparage the program and undermine the Trump administration instead of telling the truth.
Right.
Instead of telling the truth. And the guy's asking a question about what other countries. I just talked about that. We took in 168,000 unvetted Afghans in 3 weeks. We took in 300,000 Ukrainians. Enough. So this complaining about South Africa is just nonsense. It's just a bunch of racists who got their heads up their rectum and don't understand what's going on in the world. So I'm done with that nonsense.
Excellent.
Yeah. He was just trying to make a point. I'm not disagreeing with this point necessarily, as far as other countries may have needed the status too. It was brought to Trump's attention on this one, whether it was Elon Musk or it was another group of people. Trump did something.
So the program was abused. The Biden administration brought 226,000 people, and most of them weren't even vetted. I just talked about the Afghans who came here and flooded our country, not vetted. And then all we get is sad stories about all these people helping them. We didn't have 168,000 Afghans helping the military.
No.
If we did,
we didn't have 168,000.
If we did, the country wouldn't have been lost. Okay.
No,
if
so we'd have an
168,000 Afghans. Exactly. We'd have an army. This is nonsense. And that's just the ones that came in during that 3-week period. Not all the hundreds of thousands come over here since then.
Right.
So this is nonsense. It's nonsense.
So,
Yeah.
Why do I-9607? Here's the thing. These people were recognized by the federal government for refugee status. However, anybody in the globe can seek asylum if they have reasonable cause to seek asylum, and there is a process, and you can do it on the website. You don't have to come to the country to do it. You can advance by going to a website and filing for asylum status. So there is opening to other countries.
It's not exactly how it works. But I wanted to go back to the point about what's going on here. So Trump suspended the program because of pervasive fraud when he took over in the Biden administration, flooding our country with people who weren't vetted, and that's a fact. That's why 226,000 cases are currently being reviewed of previous refugees who came over here. So that's why he suspended the program. Then there was a gap between the 20th of January and the 7th of February before he instituted the directive to create a new refugee program for South Africans. And the reason that program was created is because the government of South Africa violated its constitution and decided it was going to steal property from people without compensation in violation of its own constitution, Section 25. That, in addition to a series of egregious offenses directed against the United States, pushed Trump to the point where he was going to do something. That's why it happened. So that's where it starts. That's where it finishes. If South Africa had never passed this legislation, which violates Section 25 of the Constitution for expropriation without compensation, there would be no refugee programs in South Africa. So if people have a problem with this, they need to talk to Cyril Ramaphosa and the ghouls in the parliament in South Africa. They're the proximate cause for this refugee program. So if you don't like it, you need to go talk to Cyril Ramaphosa. Case closed.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, case
Done
closed. I
and
mean,
done.
that's where it starts.
Okay, AI overview here. I just asked the question: how many countries qualify refugee status in the United States? Individuals from more than 60 countries qualify for and are admitted under refugee status in the United States. While there is no definitive static cap on the number of qualifying countries, the U.S. traditionally admits refugees from over 80 different nations. So why do I-9607? There's your answer. There are other countries where people do qualify for refugee status. I don't know which ones.
Look, this we're obviously dealing with ridiculous nonsense here. I already explained this. If the person is really curious about this, then they can come watch my program instead of eating up the time of people here to talk about politics in the U.S. I do appreciate we occasionally delve into South African politics, but that's not what this program is about.
He said, just give me a reason. Should be easy. I think I gave him an answer anyway. So.
Right.
Look, we've taken in 3 million refugees from around the world since 1980. 3 million. From all over the world, almost none of them white until the Ukrainians flooded in here. And they weren't brought in as refugees, even though they are refugees. They came over under humanitarian parole, another scam. And then they're left here in temporary protected status, which is only good for 24 months. Those who arrived in 2022, they've long lost their protected status. Why are they still here? Why are they not back fighting war in Ukraine where they're needed? Anyway, next.
Yeah, you ask a good question, but nobody's got a good answer. I mean,
I got a good answer because they're trying to undermine our country. That's what they're doing. Yep. Anyway, all right. Well, can we get back to something a little more interesting that's related to politics in the U.S.?
Yeah. Okay, let's do it.
Well, what about Trump and Iran? So, what about this deal, guys? I mean, where do you take on this? We've seen the points, the 14 points from this deal. Are we any better off if this thing is bought into? And is it even a deal? I mean, Iran says they've shut down the straits again. I mean, what's going on here, John?
Well, as far as I know, Trump keeps he's determined the Strait of Hormuz is open, ships are flowing. He's given numbers of ships that have flown through or went through the strait. I don't know what Iran's talking about regarding closing down the strait or not closing down the strait. I'm not sure where they get their strengths to close down the strait anymore. I guess they still have some. So I don't know, dude. I think we're going to have a hard time getting this to flow through. At the first meeting, I think Vance had to cancel because they said that it was done. Well, as we spoke about last week, Israel attacked Lebanon, and that's it. We're not talking to you anymore. Now they're back at the table and they're talking. And according to Trump, they're getting things worked out. But those details are kind of hard to come through until they really get things finalized, I think.
Todd?
No, I kind of agree with you. I think we talked about this last week, point by point. It's going to take a while to see if this is going to be worthwhile. Iran's not necessarily the most honest actor, if you will, and the most honorable opponent in this circumstances.
Well, my take on this is why are we even listening to these clowns? I mean, they've made promises. They're a signatory to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, so why are they proliferating nuclear weapons? Why
Right.
they signed that agreement. That's a treaty. We think they're going to uphold this. They agreed to under the dirty deal that Obama made with them. They weren't going to pursue nuclear weapons, yet they still enrich uranium and pursue nuclear weapons. They built the missiles or intermediate range missiles that could go even further. And then they attacked Israel unprovoked 2 years ago. People seem to forget all this. They just launched missiles and attacked Israel, and they've funded terrorists. They've shown no inclination to stop this. This agreement does nothing to end that. The only answer here is the elimination of these ghouls from the planet and remove this regime. That's the only answer. But the president, I think, is capitulating to public opinion, is what it looks like to me.
I've seen people on social media trying to appeal to the president, Iranians, saying, "Oh, we love you for what you've done. Please don't stop. Get this finished and over with." And no matter what, we've seen videos of Iranians with bombs basically hit the city near them, and they're going, "I'm here. I'm going through it, but I'm happy for it." What we're doing, if we were to finish it, would be the greatest thing in the world right now, because we wouldn't be doing this just for the United States of America. We would be doing something for Iran in the long run. We'd be doing something for the Mideast in the long run. We'd be doing something for the betterment of the globe in the long run. And the irony is there's so many people that are fighting, including members of Congress that Trump is having shouting matches with here recently, fighting with him about it and trying to stop him from doing it. You talk about a lack of backbone in this country anymore.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. It's something that needs to be addressed. We really have a lack of courage to do what's right, moral, and just, and that frustrates me to no end. It's something that this country seemed to have lost along the way. Its backbone. It's a shame.
Well, look at Europe. I mean, Darius was concerned about what's going on in Europe. Their own leaders in their country. I don't think we have leaders anymore. I think we have puppets. I think we have people who are just doing what they're told. They don't have any backbone. They don't stand up for anything. They don't seem reasonable. They don't have any common sense. And they certainly don't want to do anything that's a tough decision or a tough deal. They just want it easy. They want it on easy street. They want the Star Kermers or whatever his name is to run things out there, who just can't get anything done and crap all over their own people. And it's a shame to think that some of the greatest nations in the world, including the United States of America, is reducing itself to this and answering to the aggressors.
Why are we negotiating with a country that just murdered 30,000 civilians in cold blood for no reason?
I do not know. I don't know why we try to negotiate with people you can't count on to hold true to a treaty, to their agreements. People that the whole religious ideology that runs under a theocracy says it's okay to lie to the infidels as long as it serves your purpose and your ideology. As long as it serves a law, fine. Lie to them all you want to, and then underhandedly, do them in.
Yeah, I see the comment here that European leaders have been very good over Ukraine. That's a matter of opinion. They've not been very good over Ukraine. They've been a disaster. They've fueled a conflict which has led to the death of hundreds of thousands. They've led to the destruction of Eastern Europe. They have created a situation which has made Russia even more dangerous now, what with Sweden and Finland joining NATO. This has not made NATO stronger. It's made NATO weaker in many respects. It's made it more likely we'll have a conflict with Russia because of that. NATO didn't need Finland in it. Finlandization was a verb for a reason. and it functioned very well as a buffer state between the West. Bringing in the Baltic states, while I'm a huge fan of Estonia and Latvia, it was not a wise idea either. These are right on the doorstep of Russia. It was a provocative move. And now these European states are clearing out their armories of their old 30 and 40-year-old equipment that they don't want to maintain anymore, giving it to Ukraine so that their industrial complex can make lots of money selling weapons of death and filling their stocks in their own forces and letting Ukrainians die for a war that they want to fight, but they're too cowardly to fight. So I don't think European leaders have done anything good in Ukraine. In fact, they've stoked a conflict that should have been over a long time ago.
And Holden, I got no disagreement with you. Holden says, following up what you were saying, Chris, the United States allowed 270 million of its citizens to receive an experimental gene therapy.
Well, I don't know about anything about that. I didn't receive any experimental gene therapy. I'm a pureblood.
Yeah, no, either did I. But there's 340 million of us, and 270 million he's claiming did receive those, as he's called experimental gene therapy. I don't know if it has anything to do with your genes or not, but the mRNA is supposed to interact in some sort of way, I guess.
Well, look, we already have alien DNA. If it wasn't for the mitochondrial bacteria that glommed onto our genome at some point, we wouldn't be able to produce the energy necessary to get through life and respirate and breathe and move. So mitochondrial DNA is already alien DNA. So what's a little more alien DNA?
It's a little bit more alien. Man-made alien DNA, right?
Well, it's I guess they grafted. It's gain of function, man. Gain of function. Isn't that better when you gain more functions?
I got more
I'm not
functions
sure.
in it.
The Tuskegee experiment thing is undeniable.
What does that have to do with this? Boy, we're really ranging far afield with these topics tonight.
We are a little bit across the board there. No, going back to your points, Chris, I think you're right as far as how the Europeans treated the Ukraine conflict, and they basically managed to profit off it more than anything. I think they would encourage it to do so. They could have probably, and I've kind of always thought that if Europe had come together on the Ukraine-Russia conflict, they probably could have shut it down.
Yeah, no, I agree. But just like Bosnia, they allowed it to fester and become a problem. And this is. The Europeans are totally ineffective. There are no leaders in Europe. The last real leader in Europe was Helmut Kohl, who left, and he became a fossilized, corrupt individual late in his career. And the last previous decent ruler in Europe at all before that was Maggie Thatcher. They're just a bunch of, namby-pamby wannabes that can lead their way out of a wet paper bag, whether it's the Spanish leaders or it's the Italian leaders, or especially the French leaders and the German leaders. They're just losers, one and all. The Brits haven't had a decent prime minister in ages. I mean, John Major started the downward spiral of losers. Tony Blair, even though he was left of center, at least was a leader. I'll give him that. I didn't agree with most of what he did, but he was a leader. But Europe is lacking leadership because they lack real men and real women. I mean, we get the likes of Ursula von der Leyen. That's who's supposed to be a leader for Europe. It's just ridiculous. Their idea of leading is standing up to America, and they depend on America to purchase their crap and defend their skirts. So it's pathetic. No, Europe is dead and buried, and now it's invaded by tens of millions of invaders who refuse to assimilate and are taking over the countries, and it's dead. Europe is dead. It's fossilized, and it had a chance, but maybe it'll come back. But I wouldn't hold my breath.
Yep, sounds about right for sure.
Yeah, we got about a half a minute here left. Todd, you got anything on your mind you want to close out with, by chance?
No. This weekend I'll be down in Franklin near Nashville. I'll be handing over the reins of the American Legion Department of Tennessee to a new commander. I decided not to run for another term, so. It's been good for this year, so be handing that over. We'll have Senator Haggerty speaking, and of course, we'll see what's next for me.
Awesome, man. So giving up the ghost on that one.
Yep.
Chris, what do you got going on?
Just recovering, and then getting ready for the 4th, and then another trip to New England that I postponed. So, all right, we'll see how it goes.
Awesome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's our bit for tonight. We hope you got something out of it. Don't forget to join us next week, same time, same place. And have a good week, and God bless.